Happy evening and a warm welcome to our viewers and our speakers. I'm Shubha Sanjayas, the chairperson, director of the Mysuru Literature Festival, 5th edition and 2nd virtual one. I want to apologize to our viewers for keeping you all waiting for that 7-8 minutes. Mysuru Literature Festival has become a flagship event of Mysuru in the Bibliophiles diary. Now that we've gone virtual, we have viewers logging in from all over. Ms. Azmi, who is an internationally celebrated film and theater actress, believes art should be as an instrument for social change. Her entry into films marked the way for the parallel cinema movement with Shyam Benegal's Ankur in 1974. She has won 5 national awards and Best Actress, 3 of them in a row, 5 international awards for Best Actress again. She is a recipient of Padma Shri and Padma Bhushan. She has been recognized and awarded internationally for the social responsibility she shoulders. Ms. Azmi is not only director's actor when it is light, camera, and action. Away from the light, her real personality reflects in the work she's doing. She is highly respected as a social activist and tireless campaigner for the rights of women, slum dwellers, and the underprivileged. She heads the Mijwan Welfare Society, an NGO that works for empowerment of the girl child in rural India, education, primary health and sanitation, skill development and employment. From being non-existent on the map of India, Mijwan is today known all over the world as a model village that is replicable and scalable. Ms. Azmi has been nominated as Global Leadership Ambassador for Women in Public Service project initiated by Hillary Clinton. A warm welcome to you, Ms. Shabana Azmi. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Shubha. Good evening to all of you. Dr. Maithili Rao is an Indian freelance film critic, writer, journalist, and former English lecturer based in Mumbai. Dr. Rao worked as a journalist for The Hindu, Frontline, Film Comment, Gentleman, Man's World, Cinema in India, and South Asian Cinema. The latter 2 were published by the National Film Development Corporation of India and South Asian Cinema Foundation, which was based in London. She wrote the column Image of Women in the newspaper Eve's Weekly for 10 years. She is also a film critic for the Sunday Observer, the Independent Screen, the Free Press Journal, Bombay, and Sea Premier. In 2003, she contributed to the Encyclopedia of Hindi Cinema, an encyclopedia book about Hindi cinema that was published by Popular Prakashan. Dr. Rao served as a jury at the Golden Elephant, also known as International Children's Film Festival India, and the Mumbai International Film Festival. She has authored one book, the Smita Patil, titled Smita Patil, A Brief Incandescence, biographical book on the Indian actress Smita Patil, published by HarperCollins. The Times of India listed it amongst the top 25 Goodreads of 2015. A warm welcome to you, Dr. Maithili Rao. I welcome Ms. Shabana Azmi and thank you for your valuable time to be with Mysuru Literature Festival. Dr. Maithili Rao, the screen is all of yours, and I wish you all the best for the evening, and thank you very much. Over to you.
Good evening, and welcome to Shabana from Bombay. It feels so nice to see you after such a long time, and we would have liked to have you in person here. Inshallah, it might happen sometime, hope so. So, without much ado, I just want to congratulate you on two recent performances. One was The Empire, and the other one was the short film for which you got the Best Actress. And I think, first let me disabuse you, I'm no doctor. I'm just a plain Maithili Rao. I have no doctorate in cinema or any such thing, okay? So in The Empire, you play Shah Begum, who's the maternal grandmother, the Nani of Babur. And I mean, you just commanded the screen at that time, you know. And I don't know if you're aware that this series evoked a lot of interest. People started reading and researching about women of the Mughal Empire, those behind the throne. So would you like to talk about this, Shabana?
Thank you, Maithili. It is such a pleasure and an honor to be talking with you. Like, you know that I've been a fan of your work for so many years now, and so many of my reference points about Hindi cinema come from your analysis. So for me, it's a great pleasure to be talking to you, and I'm delighted that you liked my performance in The Empire. You know, when it was first offered to me, I was surprised too, because not much is known about the women in that era. And to find that she was such a feisty person, she was a kingmaker. You know, one has always thought of kingmakers as men. And to find in the Mughal era a woman who had the guts to put Babur on the throne when he was only 14 years old, she must have been an exceptional woman of some great quality. And unfortunately, there wasn't too much that I knew or I could find to do research on. So it was a tough call. And we had to base it obviously on the book. Mm-hmm. And that was the reference. Then I said, you know, we need to find how she looks. And we had only one portrait of hers on the net that we could go back and forth from. And then we decided, all right, you know, because they were basically tribes, let's not give them the Mughal-e-Azam kind of look, and let's make it far more tribal. And so when the look started coming around, somewhere, you know, the sunburnt quality of the face, the hardness of the weather that they had to deal with, all that sort of started seeping in. And it was a role that I was very happy to get my teeth into. But what happened is, between the first, the pilot that we did, and when we actually started, the pandemic had set in. And although I was working on the Steven Spielberg project, and I was also working in Shekhar Kapoor's film, What's Love Got to Do with It? So I was abroad, and I knew that, you know, enough precautions can be taken, but in India, one is always very anxious in the beginning. And, but you know, it's, I think artists just take to it like a duck takes to water. And after the first initial scare, you just get on and do it. And I think in The Empire, it is not just Ehsan Daulat, but all the women who have significant parts. And I think that's what's interesting. For me, Maithili, to find her was a bit of a struggle, because, you know, I think all of us working in Hindi cinema, we tend to draw from templates that have been given to us in the form of films like Mughal-e-Azam. So you speak in a particular way, there's a certain stature with which you behave, etc., all of it. And we don't have that much archival material to research from. And I was pretty certain that that's not what I wanted to do, that I wanted to explore it further. And then I thought about it, and I thought that, I don't know whether you've seen Elizabeth, made by Shekhar Kapoor with Kate Blanchett. And I thought that Kate Blanchett had very skillfully, I think, got the the personal and the public
Mm.
face. There's a certain public face, and then there's a real. So I think, not to say that I imitated or anything, but I knew that that was how I would like to play
Mm.
it.
And then I think the costume designing and, was like, as you said, not the Mughal-e-Azam kind of glittery stuff, like how you go in Uzbek. It is set in Uzbekistan and Tajikistan at that point of time. And also the jewelry was lots of turquoise and all that, So it was like, even the interiors with those blues, I think I like the settings, the art. I think this was one of the well-funded series for an Indian production. That's what we read
You know,
about.
the Mitaksha, the director, has a very, very keen eye. She's been an assistant with Sanjay Leela Bansali for a long time. And I think it's to Nitish, to the producer's credit.
Funny,
He-
yeah.
Nikhil
Yeah.
Advani, to take a woman to do this.
Yes.
Because the battle scenes, and it's huge, and it's a big canvas, and the stock reaction is, oh, man should be doing it. So the fact that he had the foresight
Mm.
to take her was lovely. And then she had such an eye for color and detail. And just the making of the costume was a huge thing, Maithili, because I have a lot of Central Asian clothes. So I pulled them all out from my cupboard, and I said, this combination and this kind of thing. And just we went on and on and on and on. And then finally, when the look came in, then a feeling of authenticity within the commercial framework. That's also an art, because
Yes.
it's not, it's a constructed authenticity.
Yeah.
You see, that's what we have to do with it.
So, but then are you also aware that there was a Twitter tirade against, making a film on Babur? There is that kind of a hostility. But I think that added to the interest in the series, and there was more. So, were you aware of it, or how did it affect when it was being, the telecasting started, the series announced, there was, I think, a lot of, I know we have this lunatic fringe element in the country. So I think that was very disturbing, that you want to erase part of our history in the name of some ideology that you have. That was something that needs to be combated, I thought. And this film did do that. I mean, the series.
But, in fact, I think there was a lame effort to sort of pull down the series and pull us down for valorizing Babur, etc. But it died a quick death because there was no substance to it. And also because we were dealing with Babur before he came to India. So they really didn't with it, yeah.
And but I think just last year, I think you presented Me Raksam, which was made, I think, Baba, your brother's first film as a director. And you made a statement through that film. Of course, first, I think I remember you saying, your father, Kaifi Saab, saying that, why don't they make any film in mine? There's his little village over there. And there the film took on Muslim orthodoxy, because adolescent Muslim girl, the daughter of a tailor, wants to learn Bharatnatyam. First of all, that was a kind of I don't think people become too politically correct. So you cannot criticize a minority orthodoxy. So, but that film was very brave in confronting that.
You see, we grew up, Maithili, in an atmosphere where communalism was really attacked head on, because my parents believed in India's greatest strength being her composite culture and India's greatest strength being her pluralism. And so any attack on the basis of religion was anathema to them. And we grew up in a household where Holi, Diwali, Eid, Ganpati, Christmas, all these festivities are celebrated with great pomp and splendor because they were seen as part of a culture, not as part of any religion. And so we grew up in that kind of atmosphere. And the one uh, lesson that I learned from my father and from the progressives is that both majority and minority communalism are actually each other's mirror reflections. Both feed into the same mindset. And it is important that fundamental religious fundamentalism of any hue needs to be confronted. And because we grew up in that, it was just natural that we would take this on.
Yeah. And it made a humanistic statement in a very low-key but very effective way. There's such a charm with all the newcomers,
Yes.
Mostly except for Nasiruddin Shah, we didn't find any known face in that film. And then,
no, it's a very interesting story because, as my Baba Azmi, my brother, has always been a mainstream DOP. Okay, so to his credit, he's had Mr. India and he's had Dil and he's had all these films. And he used to always protest and say, I don't belong to this art cinema types. I'm going to make a mainstream film. And what is this all about and stuff like that. And my father never said anything to him because I think he was so certain that that mitti itni gili thi ki ankur to utega hi. And so the prodigal son returned. And the first film, in fact, he started thinking that he was going to make a mainstream commercial spy film or something like that, or an action film. And then he just couldn't work with it. And there was something that drew him to this little village. So it was really the prodigal son returns home.
you must have been very happy for you.
Yeah.
And the recent film, it's a short film, but Sheer Kurma, you've written about it, and you got the Best Actress Award for that at, I think, Boston International Film Festival. And again, that deals with another radical subject, acceptance of a lesbian relationship in the family. So, this coming soon after Lihaf, I mean, that Ismat Chughai's famous short story again made into film. That was so many years ago, but it took us quite some time to reach this level. Of course, fire came in between. So can you just talk about Sheer Kurma?
You see, Sheer Kurma has been scripted and directed by Faraz Ansari, who had in his personal life difficulty owning up his sexuality, particularly to his mother. And I think it was very important for him to get this out of his system. It's a very sensitively written subject. And I play the mother who wants to say, all right, I'll take this up to a point, but her daughter gets married to another woman and brings her to this house. And she doesn't treat her all that well. And so when she's confronted by the daughter, she says, I'm tolerating her. What do you want? Make her sit in my lap. I can't do this. And then there is a flare up in which she says, this is against nature. And her son says, but the God that made them, is he a different God from the one that you and I were made from? And then the penny drops in her. I thought it was such a powerful statement. And so then from protest to acceptance is what it is about. And it's very emotional, very beautiful. And I think very important because although the situation with the LGBT community has improved a great deal since fire, but still there's a lot of reluctance. And I think there's a lot of confusion with parents. Parents think they are to blame. What is there to blame? I don't understand, but they think maybe I brought my child up wrongly. So there is a lot of confusion that still needs to be settled. And the film does that beautifully. And it's already won 18 awards internationally. So obviously it has some core to it, which, for me, it's very important. These films are important, not only, it's a love story. It's a different thing that it's between two women, but basically it's a form of love. And we have a tendency to push away who we regard as the other.
Yeah.
And that extends to everything. The other race, the other gender, the other nation, the other religion. And in this world where divisiveness is sort of almost taking over, any work of art that makes a plea for not tolerance, but for acceptance, for empathy, I think is an important thing to do. Because really, if we can empathize with this couple, then hopefully we will be able to extend that empathy to who we consider the other.
Yeah, that's the very important point. You know, we keep saying tolerance. Tolerance means that you're suffering them, you know.
Absolutely.
So acceptance is what is required. So when you make Fire, how did you deal with the, I mean, I remember all the hostility, people wanting to go and break up the theaters and all that. And the producers, I think, had a separate screening for only women audiences, so that there's nothing that is offensive. And whatever scenes of intimacy between you and Nandita, they were done so sensitively, there was nothing graphic. But how did you play that role? This is the first time you're playing a role like that.
It's interesting you're asking me this question, because Fire is now completed 25 years, and Nandita and Deepa and I were revisiting Fire recently, and so many things came up. And the thing is, when I read it, I liked the script. I was deeply moved by it. But because I used to work in the slums and I used to work with women, I thought that it would be used against me in my work, because I speak on I don't speak on religious lines at all in the social work that I do. And now this would, I thought, be a weapon that would be used against me by the conservatives to say that you shouldn't listen to this woman. And I expressed that to Javed, and Javed said, but Shabana, that they will do irrespective of whether you give them an opportunity or not. You have to decide, because when this film comes up for scrutiny and when questions are asked of you, will you be able to defend the film? And I said, yes, I think I can defend the film. He said, well, then just go ahead and do it. That came as huge encouragement. Then I was also very convinced that Deepa would do it very sensitively. That I was absolutely certain. That what was interesting is Zoya was such a young girl at that time, and she hadn't become a filmmaker then. And I discussed the subject with her, Zoya Akhtar. And she said, well, do you like it? And I said, yes, I like it very much. So she said, then do it. So I said, but it's got this lesbian angle. And she said, so? And it struck me that between generations, for her, it was not even a matter to even sort of register. And that made me thinking that, India is not a monolith, and not everybody is going to react in the same way. So I figured that some would be very sort of puzzled, some would be very angry, some would be deeply moved. But a process of questioning would start. And I think that's all a work of art can do. That it can create awareness, it can create sensitivity, create a climate of sensitivity in which it is possible for change to occur.
But then finally, but you couldn't act in water. You had shaved off your hair for that. And Nandita was to play. But what happened, because she finally went and made it in Sri Lanka with a different cast.
But, it was so unfortunate. It was so unfortunate because I was a member of parliament then, imagine. And they kept saying that the city is up in arms and they want you to go out. I said, but they have to read the script. And Veer Bahadur Mishra, who was the person who was working on the Ganges project, had in fact actually endorsed the script. The others hadn't read them, but they decided that it was against this and it was against that, etc., etc. And so they wouldn't let us go for shooting. Then one day, as we were about to leave, we were told, no, the DM has sent a message saying that there are 10,000 people on the streets protesting, and so you cannot leave for the shooting. I was a member of parliament, so I said, all right, let me see that in writing. Of course, he hadn't given it in writing. So I said, if I'm giving you half an hour, if in half an hour you're not able to use a written note from the DM, I'm going ahead. Of course, that note didn't come. And Maithili, we were told that there were women, children, men on the streets with flags and demonstration, all that. Forget about 10,000 people. There were not even 1,000 people. There were not even 100 people. Our car moved nicely to the location. We went inside there with 400 rapid action police people with us. 400. This is not a number that I'm exaggerating. 400 rapid action police were with us. We were inside, and 12 people came with banners saying, go back, we won't allow the shooting. And the police said, well, we'll have to pack you up because we don't have the wherewithal to tackle 12 people, and there were 400 rapid action police. That's what transpired. It was hugely tragic. And then finally, when she decided to make it in Sri Lanka, she was going to make it on a TV platform. And she was told very clearly that if Nandita and Shabana are in the film, then we will not buy the film. And so she came to us, and both of us said, no, it's important that you make the film. And when it reached the Oscar as a nominee, we felt really validated.
I know. Then this, brings me back. You prepared so much for the role. How does an actor of your caliber prepare for the role? You're a trained actor, but I always remember saying that as a child, you're a big dramabaz. So that intuition, I think instinctively you were drawn to acting. And then, so what does it entail in, blending this intuition of getting into a role plus the training as an actor? So what goes into your performance? How do you prepare for it? I mean, you talked about it for the Empire to get the look right and how you're going to play. But then when you started out, so what?
Professionally trained actor in the Stanislavski method. I had a very good teacher in Roshan Taneja Film Institute. And Stanislavski believed that you should be able to prefix the words, if I were. If I were a queen, a slum dweller, a street walker, maid, anybody. And you should be able to make that part credible. And there are various things on the basis of which you develop that. Observation, memory, observation, recording of that observation, imagination, all that comes in plenty. So what happens when you're a trained actor, then one part of you is always observing. So while I'm talking to you, I will be fully focused on you, but I'll also say that, oh, she raises her eyebrows in a particular way, or she smiles in a particular way. And that is getting into some space in my head. And then in a particular character, I suddenly feel, oh, that is a characteristic that I can pick up. It becomes an almost simultaneous process. I have a rather frightening incident to share. You see, what actors do is they're constantly also observing, because see, when I'm acting for the camera, I also have to be aware of the camera and my emotion, right? So if there's a trolley shot, what happens is that I also have to, I'm fully in the moment, but I also have to come to a mark and take the light in a particular way. Sometimes I feel, oh my God, the camera has gone ahead. Maybe I should hasten up my space. So there is a person who's always also watching you.
Okay.
There was an instance once when an aunt of mine had lost her husband. And I was meeting her almost about 6 months after he had passed away. And she was sitting on the bed in front of me, and she started talking about what happened that day. And she was talking normally. And then I suddenly realized that, while she was talking, she was doing something to her hand. Now I'm doing it up here, so she was doing it on her lap. Okay. And that, as she got closer to the emotion, suddenly just stopped. And she burst into tears. And Maithili, I was watching her. I was completely in sync with her, but at the same time, I was also thinking, wow, this would be such an important moment to do. That there is an action that you are doing which you're not even aware of, and the action and the bursting of the tears comes at the same time. Now, can you imagine how frightening that can be for you? So that's what happens with an actor. You keep storing things. You observe and you store. You observe and you store, and it becomes an almost simultaneous process with you. So it takes its toll.
So that's what I was thinking. If you're so immersed in a role, does it drain you emotionally? Because there is the famous case of Dilip Saab had become so drained after doing Devdas that he had to be away. His doctors told him, you'd get in a state of depression if you stop playing these intense roles and then go and do something light. And so he did Azad and Kohinoor. Does this, like, say, a film like Earth, where you invested so much of yourself emotionally in the role? Because I could see you stripped yourself naked emotionally in that film. You show all your vulnerabilities. And that's, I think, demands a lot from an actor, from any person, and even for an actor to get into that role. So does that affect you?
Of course, deeply. In fact, in the scene where I broke down after the shot was over, it was a scene in which I go up to my husband and I beg him and I say, please give this marriage another chance. Now, that is a degree of humiliation that I had to feel from within me for it to be naked and for it to come. You see, so when as an actor you are doing sort of moments of valor, of courage, of goodness, all that you feel really good about. But when you are being stripped naked and you have to allow that to come in from within you, it takes its toll. And after the shot was over, and Mahesh kept telling me, I don't want you to cry in the scene. I don't want you to cry. You have to beg, understand? And then when the scene was over, I remember for half an hour, I was just sobbing and crying. And then Mahesh just came and hugged me, which is why I feel that for actors, it's very important that their partners also from the same kind of field. Because imagine if it were a doctor, he would wonder why you have come in the state. But since I'm married to a writer, he can understand, because even when he's writing, sometimes he can, get completely carried away with that. But I'll tell you a nice thing about actors. I think actors are neurotic. You know why? Because what is civilized behavior? Civilized behavior tells you that you should keep all your emotions under control. Whether it is anger, whether it is laughter, whether it's tears, civil behavior requires that you keep your emotions under control. Acting does the exact opposite. Acting says, keep all your emotions right at your throat. And on the click of a button, I say, emotion number 36, Niklo. And I'll cry. Then he says, cut. And then I go back. So I have to be in a state of emotional preparedness 24/7, which is the exact opposite of civilized behavior. So obviously, when I'm keeping my emotion all there for it to be, use at all times. I am going to be neurotic. I don't think actors can be very normal.
That's an admission. But another thing that I notice about you, in 2002, there was a retrospective of your films at the Lincoln Center in New York. And I was asked to write a profile of you as an actor and the films that were selected. And I was thinking, how do I capsule your work, the essence of you as an actor, for an American audience? Then I thought, suddenly the musical analogy struck me. I said, you're always in sur, like pitch perfect for the narrative. Because sometimes what happens, I've noticed it with other actors, even with Smita, is to find that she was too intense when the rest of the film had a different tone. But you always have the gift of being in that, being in sur, I think. So I think that article was called Pitch Perfect, I remember. So I think that's a gift which you have honed, or is it inborn? Or is it like exposure has made you catch the sur of the narrative?
I think it's a mix of everything, because I think it's amazing that you use the word sur, because Taneja Saab used to always say sur, get the sur right. Because particularly when he was talking about mainstream cinema, he would say mainstream cinema in those days used to be made over 2 years. So it's perfectly possible that I am doing a shot today and that scene is left in the middle. And then I pick it up 6 months later. Now, 6 months later, neither my head, nor my voice, nor my body looks like it was. And so how do I connect with it? And he used to say, get the sur, get the sur. And sur simply is the truth. Taneja Saab always used to say, play the truth, be in the moment. Now, being in the moment is easier said than done, because you have to be in the moment, but you also have to be aware of the camera. You also have to be aware of the lighting. You also have to be aware of the mic. And yet you have to be in the moment. So it's a fierce kind of concentration that is required. And I think that can come, some people are just naturally gifted. And for some people who are gifted, it is important also for it to be honed by training. So I am a great believer in training. People say, "Arey yaar, uski technique nazar aa jati." तो अगर टेक्निक, उसका क्राफ्ट नजर आ जाता है, तो अगर नजर आता है, then it's not good craft. But the fact is, you have to have craft, because if you don't have craft, and if you're just sort of expecting inspiration to fall on your head 24/7, it's not going to happen. Because even spontaneity, Nasir says that, and I like this very much. He says, even when you appear to be spontaneous in front of the camera, or when you're on stage, remember that it is a constructed spontaneity, and that spontaneity can be arrived at only after you have done so much with it that your technique allows you to bring that spontaneity without any effort. But for that, you have to make a lot of effort earlier. So people don't realize that, they don't realize that. They say, she is spontaneous. You have to have craft, and that craft should not be seen. If it is seen, then it's faulty craft.
Yes, I mean, you can't see the mechanics of the method when you're acting. So so that's why I'm amazed that you could do a film like Khandar, which is sort of drenched in melancholy, and then a film like The Godmother, which has such a dramatic arc. It reaches a crescendo and then ends with the quietus. In both the films of such contrasting styles and moods, you're in perfect sync with the director's vision and what do you call the narrative sur of the film. So among these films, you often said that you think Khandar's the role you played in Khandar is the best performance. Is it still?
I never say it's the best performance. I say it's the performance in which I think I made the least number of mistakes.
Do you still stand by that, or you want to change your?
I haven't seen Khandar in a long time. I would like to see it again. But Khandar and Jamini in Khandar, I just loved her. I just loved her. I loved her dignity. I loved, I loved the fact that she didn't play a victim. She was actually a victim, but she held on to her dignity. And I just loved that part. And I remembered something terrible that had happened, Maithili. Imagine the first shot. And remember that I did Khandar straight after Mandi.
Yeah.
So Mandi had put on all that weight. Mandi was gregarious, over dramatic, dramebaz, and then I had to play Khandar, Jamini. And so I had to lose all that weight. I had to sort of go back into myself. I had to become deeply introspective. I wouldn't go and mix with the crew. I would stay in the room with my music and my books, and I was becoming more and more introverted. And I don't know what I was saying. I just lost my
No, Jamini, getting into Jamini's role after Mandi. So actually, I was going to ask another question with that. Acting sometimes physically very demanding. Just think of, for Mandi, you have to put on all that weight, and your walk and the way you sat, all those mattered. And then in Par, you had to, that must have been taking those pigs across a swollen Hooghly. You and Nasir, I think, it was like a marvelous performance, but I thought physically so demanding that.
It was because we had to lose all that weight, and it was this whole thing about the pigs was really funny because, I'm a good swimmer. Nasir is not a good swimmer. And Gautam Ghosh had told him, don't worry, we'll get a swineherd, and the swine control the pigs. Now, when we started, there was a kind of whirlpool in which one of the pigs actually drowned in front of us. So imagine how intimidating that was. And when the swineherd turned up, he was like about 90, 80 years old or something like that. blind as a bat and really thin. And he was made to sit there, and all he was doing is. So Nasir started screaming and saying, what is this? How is this man going to do anything? I said, Nasir, be happy that he's alive. Now, this is what we've got. We have to go ahead and just do it. And what happened, one of the things that I feel really, really bad about is, when Gautam was speaking about it, and in fact, that's a line also in the script where it says there are 36 pigs. And because these people are going with it, at one time, it seemed almost like there are 38 pigs. And that was a visual that was it got imprinted in me. So in one of the scenes when we were with the pigs, I found, and I was on the boat, I just jumped right in, and I put my chin on the rumps of two pigs. So can you imagine the visual? These are the rumps of the pig, and this is me. So in my head, I was looking like a pig. And because I had not prepared them and I hadn't told them, and there were 3 cameras, so a camera came in. A boat came in with a camera, and we couldn't use that shot. I feel very, very bad about it. Very, very bad.
I think I'll have to cut down some of the questions that I had, but I want to get to your theatre work. Tumhari Amrita, Kaifi and Me, and then you did Broken Mirror. So Broken Images, sorry. Yeah, it is Broken Images, which I saw. That was in English, but the other 2. So like theater is in your blood. Your mother gave her, I think she was like dedicated to IPTA, and she was always there. You've grown up with theater around you. So why did it take, the films became so demanding that you couldn't give that much time to theater? Or what was the reason?
Actually, I have always been acting since I was 3 years old. I was always acting, and in Xavier's College, Farooq Sheikh and I had formed a Hindi theatre, Hindi Natya Manchan. We used to win all the awards. We used to win the best actor, best actress, best film, best play, best direction, etc., etc. And when I joined the Film Institute, I didn't think I was going to join films. I thought that I will do theatre. And strangely, firstly, I got a scholarship very quickly. After my first semester, I started getting a scholarship, the Atmaram scholarship I got. And I signed 2 films when I was still a student at the Institute. The first film was K. Abbas's Pasla, and the other film was Kantilal Rathor's Parinay. And so I just sort of walked into films not knowing that that is what I'm actually going to do. And then, of course, I got absorbed in it and I got so much work that it was not till 1980 that I said I want to get back. I really want to do theatre. And then that was M.S. Satyu, who said, listen, I cannot promise that I'll cast you. You have to come there for 15 days, every day at 6:30 sharp. I don't tolerate latecomers. And I don't want you to tell me my shooting mein idhar phas gayi or main udhar phas gayi, let me see. And for 15 days, I would reach there at 6:30 sharp. And then on the 16th day, he said, all right, I confirm you, you can now do Sufed Kundali. And, I worked in the National Theatre in London. I mean, that's the highest an actor can aspire for. The Singapore Repertory Theatre, and I've done here. And I think actors who can do theatre and film are really, really fortunate. Because although the process of finding the character is the same, the discipline is different. And to hone yourself to that discipline is very, very special. I'll tell you a very strange story. I was doing Broken Images, and it's a Girish Karnad play. And it is about a woman who comes in, who's a Hindi short story writer, and she comes in to give an interview about her. She's written an English book and it's very successful. And she's talking all about the book and everything. Just as she's leaving, the image on the television, who's a replica of her, starts talking to her. And then it's a conversation between the two. Okay, so you've seen it?
Yes, I saw it at the St. Andrews. Yeah, I've seen that.
Okay, so it's a pre-recorded image, right? And it's in English, the play. And one day I was in Grota, and while I was getting my makeup done in the makeup room, the organizer comes up and says, ma'am, only 20% of the people understand English. So I said, isn't it rather late in the day to tell me this? So wo kehta hai, well, can you do a little bit in Hindi? I was so appalled. I said, this man really has no idea what theatre is about. And I went up on stage, Maithili, and I did the whole play in Hindi, translating on my feet. The entire play I did in Hindi. Now imagine, since you've seen the play, you know that I'm translating on my feet and I am keeping all the actions because the image is also looking here and looking there, so I can't miss that. And when it was over, I almost went and fainted because I couldn't believe that this is something that I could do. Now, nothing that I have done ever in any film can ever match the thrill of that experience. That's what live theatre is about.
Yeah, I know. You get the immediate feedback, the response from the audience.
Yeah.
And I just want to know, if ever Tumhari Amrita is so popular, it has gone all over, is there a recording of it that can be streamed anytime? No.
Unfortunately, no. It's a big, big tragedy. It's a big tragedy, really.
Then, another thing that is completely...
I have to go. I have to go. There are people waiting for me. I didn't realize that. So can we now just quickly end this? I know that I had told you, but
okay, then there's so many questions, but I said October is supposed to be the month of poetry, and I told you that I want you to recite 2 poems, one of Kaifi Saab and from one of Javed Saab. And you recite it very well. Your diction is so good.
Okay, so let me go with Daira. Daira means circle. Shall I say it in Hindi and English or only in English?
Yes. No, say it in Hindi first. And then maybe the first few lines you can say in English if you are rushed for time. Daira is Kaifi Saab's.
Yeah, Kaifi Saab's poem. रोज बढ़ता हूँ जहां से आगे, फिर वहीं लौट के आ जाता हूँ। बारहा तोड़ चुका हूँ जिनको, उन्हीं दीवारों से टकराता हूँ। रोज बसते हैं कई शहर नए, रोज धरती में समा जाते हैं। जलजलों में थी जरा सी गर्मी, वो भी अब रोज ही आ जाते हैं। से रूह तलक रेत ही रेत, न कहीं धूप न साया न शराब। कितने अरमान है किस सहरा में, कौन रखता है मजारों का हिसाब। नब्ज बुझती भी भड़कती भी है, दिल का मामूल है घबराना भी। रात अंधेरे ने अंधेरे से कहा, एक आदत है जिए जाना भी। कौस एक रंग की होती है तुलू, एक ही चाल है पैमाने की। गोशे गोशे में खड़ी है मस्जिद, शक्ल क्या हो गई मैखाने की। कोई कहता था समंदर हूं मैं, और मेरी जेब में कतरा भी नहीं। खैरियत अपनी लिखा करता हूं, अब तो तकदीर में खतरा भी नहीं। अपने हाथों को पढ़ा करता हूं, कभी कुरान कभी गीता की तरह। चंद रेखाओं में सीमाओं में जिंदगी कैद है सीता की तरह। राम कब लौटेंगे मालूम नहीं, राम कब लौटेंगे मालूम नहीं। काश रावण ही कोई आ जाता। So I'll do the English translation. Every day from where I go ahead, I come back to the same spot again. The walls I have broken so many times are the walls I strike all over again. Every day new towns come into being. Every day the earth subsumes them again. Earthquakes at least had a heat of their own. Now they just recur over and again. From the body to the soul, an endless desert. No sun, no mirage, no shade. So many hopes have perished in the desert waste. Who cares a damn for the grave? The pulse dies and flutters again. The heart's natural attribute is anxiety. At night, the night whispered to itself, to go on living is a habit in itself. A rainbow is a bouquet of but one color. A goblet has its own trajectory. If mosques begin to stand at every corner, what can the shape of the tavern be? Somebody used to say he is the ocean itself, when not even a drop was with me. Now I write to all that I'm fine. Now danger too is absent from my destiny. I read the lines on my palm like I would the Quran or the Gita. In the confines of a few lines, my life is imprisoned like Sita. When Ram will return, I cannot say. If only some Ravan would come and stay. It's by Pavan Kumar Verma.
Yeah, his. And Javed Saab's any poem?
Javed Saab's poem is Dilemma, Perplexity. It's a short poem which I like very much. Dilemma. उलझन। करोड़ों चेहरे और उनके पीछे करोड़ों चेहरे, ये रास्ते हैं कि भिड़ के छत्ते। जमीन जिस्मों से ढक गई है, कदम तो क्या दिल भी धरने की अब जगह नहीं है। ये देखता हूं तो सोचता हूं कि अब जहां हूं वहीं सिमट के खड़ा रहूं मैं, मगर करूं क्या ये जानता हूं कि रुक गया तो जो भीड़ पीछे से आ रही है वो मुझको पैरों तले कुचल देगी, पीस देगी। तो अब जो चलता हूं मैं तो खुद मेरे अपने पैरों में आ रहा है, किसी का सीना, किसी का बाजू, किसी का चेहरा। चलूं तो औरों पे जुल्म ढाऊं, रुकूं तो औरों के जुल्म सहूं। जमीर तुझको तो नाज है अपनी मुनसफी पर, जरा सुनूं तो कि आज क्या तेरा फैसला है। The English translation is by David Matthews. No, it's not by David Matthews, I'm sorry. It is by Ali Hussein Mir. Perplexity. Millions of faces, and following them millions of faces. Are these streets or hornets' nests? The earth is covered with bodies. No place to walk, no room to squeeze by. I look at this and think that I might as well remain rooted where I am. But what can I do? Because I know that if I stop, the crowd behind me will trample me under its feet and crush me. So now as I walk, under my own feet is someone's chest, someone's arm, someone's face. If I walk on, I shall oppress others. If I stop, I shall suffer oppression. O conscience, you are so proud of your sense of justice. So tell me, what decision have you reached today? It's so typical Javed. It's so typical Javed, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think this dilemma is with all of us, Maithili, because we are always aware of the fact that you either trample somebody or you get trampled by them. How do you find the midway? I think that is the struggle all of us face at various levels, don't we? How to create that balance.
So are you in a rush or do you have time for another question?
I'm too much in a rush, Maithili.
Yeah, just last one. Are you any time planning to write your memoir? Because you've written such a wonderful piece on your mother for us, for an anthology that Rinki and I are, putting
it's something that I keep telling myself that I should do. And I mean, it is somewhere there in the back of my head, but not anything that that I've started doing, but I've sort of started getting, I'm working on it.
Good, because I think only you have you come from a family of writers, and then that sense of drama is there with you. So you have to come out with your memoir.
Okay, thank you. All right. It was such a pleasure talking to you. I'm so sorry I have to leave early.
Okay, bye. We'll hopefully see you in Mysore sometime. Okay.
Inshallah.
Inshallah.
Yes, hopefully next.
Yeah. Good night.